Is race a social construct? A lot of people surely seem to think so. White people and fellow white people mainly. Everyone else takes great pride in their race except for whites who, well, heck guys, I have no clue why they ruined this one too. This one is also a little bit the fault of sociologists, but mainly the fault of cultural anthropologists. Cultural anthropology makes a claim that they're the only ones that deal with race. Why is that? Because they say so. They say race is a social construct and refer back to themselves for the proof race is a social construct. Yes, the same circular reasoning sociologists use on gender. Though with race, it's far more a feeling, an uncomfortable, is it hot in here, wiggle in your seat, sort of gasping for air feeling of uneasiness, watching white people attempt to explain for the supposed good of non-white people that whites merely created racial categories to oppress them. It's a sort of penance, it's like a reparation. Hey, person of color who has been mistreated so badly because of your race, find solace in the fact that your race doesn't even exist. White people, not me, I'm one of the good ones, but white people in general, created race to tell you that you were a lesser than. That's not true, which is why I'm treating you like a child here who needs to be protected from reality because you're so much better than me. I have a black friend and my sister twerks all the time. Please don't kill... I mean, seriously. Here's the top result on the internet. Race as a social construct. Just read it. No mentions to anything even remotely brushing up against someone who's been within 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon of science. This is literally the top result on the entire internet. No mentions of evolution, biology, haplogroups, or even the real name for race, which is geographic or geographical subspecies. Just two guys who claim it's an illusion and racial groups were created by those dang dastardly devilish white demons in order to feign supremacy, superiority. That's from some cultural anthro take. And no, cultural anthropology is also not a science. Ironically, the description of cultural anthropology proves it's not actually a science. How'd they manage that? Pay attention to something here if you don't mind. Just a few seconds, then we're done. Let me give y'all 2 seconds to pause this and maybe read it. Now look at what I have underlined here. Sir Edward Taylor, who was a physical anthropologist, an actual scientist doing actual field work, not digging through trash cans, needed a term to apply to society's deep-rooted and complex laws of customs and beliefs, so he called it culture. Y'all know this is my pet peeve. I wrote a book called The Genetic Roots of Culture. I've long argued that this, the original definition, is what culture actually is. The foundational underpinnings of the complex whole that's mutable atop the groundwork. Though look at what they did. Does any of this sound like what they define as culture to you today? Beliefs and laws and customs? No. Objectively speaking, it isn't. They define culture as taco recipes, cornrows, Mexicanos and sombreros, and Pocahontas in a headdress. That's how they define culture today. I'm sorry to go off on an aside there. This is just my biggest pet peeve. These geniuses completely erased the definition of culture defined by a physical anthropologist, a real scientist, just so they could create the pyramid scheme socialist science that is cultural anthropology. So no, it cannot be a real science. So with that nonsense out of the way, what is race? By understanding how science defines race, we can tell whether or not it's socially constructed by looking at some pretty eye-opening, illuminating facts. If any progressives happen upon this, they will instantly dismiss me for using a biological dictionary, a biology terminology dictionary, instead of the sociological version, arguing that biology results are socially constructed by racists, whereas their definitions are somehow empirical. Basically, Sargon's law in full swing, but enough about Britain's beta boys. This is what race is, a subspecies. Subspecies are formed from geographic isolation and the processes of evolution, the forces of evolution, which include natural selection, gene flow, genetic drift, and mutation. It's a taxonomic group. So, see what you can read here. On a literal biology dictionary, the best example they could find to illustrate that subspecies are a tangible, empirical, observable thing in nature is Homo sapiens, us, people. I couldn't make this up if I wanted to. My videos are far too low rent to edit this sort of stuff in here. This is directly from a biology dictionary. Now for fun, let's see if we can find what a cultural anthropology dictionary has to say. And if we can't, we'll go back to the sociology one. This is straight from a collegiate guide of cultural anthropology terminology. No BS. Y'all can go look it up yourselves. I wouldn't fake this. Look at how big of a joke this is. They actually get the first part correct, at least mostly. I'm not sure what variety and more or less is doing in there. That's kind of weasel wording their way through it, but they're close enough in horseshoes. Then look at what they do. They immediately claim that biological differences in human beings simply are not reality and are socioculturally created. Sociocultural creations. No references. The ethnic group link here just takes us back to their terminology about what an ethnic group is, which they get entirely wrong here by not even mentioning that they're comprised of haplotypes of the overarching haplogroup. You can't call something a science that refuses to do scientific research. I'm sorry. Social sciences are not science, and Jordan Peterson can suck nuts too, because psychology isn't a science, and we'll do one of those one day. It's important for me to help the 12 people who watch this understand that we have to show how the source of this misinformation is lying. Even if we cannot pinpoint why they're lying, like as in what they get out of it, it's vital to show that they are. And they are. They objectively are. We're looking at it. They are saying that people who evolved here in a hot, arid, dry, sun-drenched region of sub-Saharan Africa for thousands of generations had zero biological distinctions juxtaposed against, say, someone who evolved here in a cooler, sun-deprived atmosphere, who also took on sedentary agrarian habits, polar opposite the nomadic hunter-gatherer habits of people who evolved in an entirely different part of the world. Meanwhile, the Siberian tiger and Bengal tiger have exponentially more in common than Aboriginals have with Asians, for example, yet it goes uncontested and is considered an undisputed fact of biological taxa that these two animals are distinct subspecies, but not Homo sapiens. Why? The same reason no kids are allowed to take AP classes, because there's a certain group that doesn't qualify for AP classes. Instead of making that group that fails to get into AP classes compete to get into them, it's better to take them away from those who can achieve success. It might make someone jealous, or at least make white people feel guilty. So what's so different from the Bengal and Siberian tigers? Namely their size, their fur, and their stripes. Those few morphological and phenotypical and physiological characteristic differential alone, coupled with the fact that they evolved in different geographical regions, is enough to qualify them taxonomically as different subspecies of the same overarching tigress species. So if cultural anthros are saying humans don't have any biological differences, that must mean we're exactly the same. So, for instance, it's not like gestation periods differ between ethnic and racial groups, which would suggest that some races carry children longer, and that thus gives weight to the RK selection model theory. Oh, fluke. It's a fluke. It's not like our bone density is different in races, like we'd expect to see through scientific observation and building a model of predictive utility that nomadic hunter-gatherer Africans have a higher bone density than sedentary Europeans. That's just crazy talk. Crap. Okay. We need to rethink this approach here. So, this one got him. Boom, headshot. Because it's definitely not like our metabolisms and physiology are so distinct among races that we have to take different medicines per races, because that would only be true if we were actually different biological geographical subspecies. I mean, it's not like a publication like the Journal of the National Medical Association would do a study and prove that. Oh, this isn't going well at all. But let's be real here. It's not like they had well-funded, legitimately broad scientific studies dating all the way back to the 1960s that showed hormonal differentials between races, like testosterone levels being different among races. Oh. Man. I don't know, man. It's hard being a cultural anthropologist. But okay, got him this time. We know for a fact that something like follicular hair structure in races is just socially constructed to make black women feel bad for not having straight hair. It's not like the structures of the hair vary entirely, different sizes, shapes, and compositions. This couldn't be true. Oh. Okay. But surely, we at least all have the exact same ocular functions, right? The same type of eye functions. Yep, I mean, this will do it. This will prove race is a social construct by stating definitively that there's no difference in how eyes work in all humans since we're all exactly the scam. Gotta be. Lies, right? Who studies that kind of crap? White racists, Hitler Nazis, Nazi Hitler, German Hitler Nazis. So whatever. Just get LASIK, Whitey. We know that we couldn't possibly have any difference at all in our olfactory responses, the way we smell, that are based on race, because race just doesn't exist. Damn it, man. And look, this just goes on and on and on and on. I had a lot of fun with that, I ain't gonna lie, but it goes on and on and on. Seriously, I'm tired of screenshotting this crap. We see it in teeth and skulls and skeletal structure and blood antigens and immune systems and system tolerances and etc. etc. It just goes on. The differences we have biologically based on evolution are astronomical. With tigers, they can be a completely separate race, a completely separate subspecies for those couple of minor differences. For Homo sapiens, we're different head to heel and everything inside, yet they'll literally claim that there's zero biological basis to claim separate races exist. It's just laughable. Not only that they lie so supremely and blatantly, but that so many believe it. They were too lazy to even change the definition of subspecies, like they did for racism and culture and gender. For this, they were just like, oh, people will believe it if we throw it out there. They just flatly claimed that all humans are identical, therefore only races classify them like that. But we didn't deal in opinion here. All of these things were scientific studies and facts of biology that show the differentiation we have between us as geographically isolated subspecies. I'll perhaps do another video on how we can genetically test via our haplogroups that trace our ancestries back to a degree of 99.9% accuracy. For this video, I just wanted to touch on the fact that race does exist. We not only meet the threshold to be classified as geographical subspecies, we're the world's most preeminent example of that by a mile. So much so that Homo sapiens are listed in the biology dictionary. Lads, we made it. Not those pesky sloths. So just keep something in mind here. The person believing race is a social construct is not only believing one lie, they're believing about 1,000 lies.